What up, Cucks? It's your boy, the Hater, in this piece. And I'm currently working on the Rantomania, but it's a bit longer than I thought it would be, so please be patient with your boy. Now, while we wait for that, I figured this would be a good opportunity to talk about something that's been on my mind, right? Recently, we've had the Women's World Cup, and recently we've had various WWE women's matches. And it got me thinking about the reality. It seems that nobody wants to blanket statement say it, right? People always flip around, they tiptoe around the truth that we all know. And that is that unequivocally, without basically any exceptions, women's sports are shit, all right? It's complete garbage. Nobody really cares about the women's soccer team. Nobody really cares about Bianca Belair versus Asuka, right? Now, I'm not saying that we destroy and cancel women's sports, but it's time that someone legitimately just says it the way it is. And the way it is this. Title IX, motherfuckers. Title IX. It's really as simple as this. We have women's sports so women can do the same things that men can do. But in the underlying premise of this is the reality that nobody gives a shit about women's sports, right? Every woman's sport is worse than every man's sport. There are no exceptions, right? Now, I'll talk about soccer because that's relevant right now, and then I'll talk about wrestling because that's what the hater knows. Cucks. Now, insofar as soccer goes, the Women's World Cup is a complete joke. I don't care at all. Nobody cares at all, right? It is a complete waste of everyone's time. The fact that they spend the millions of dollars they do to push down our throats, the fact that the United States women's team is somehow relevant in any capacity is just disgraceful, right? It really is to a point now where it's like nobody cares, nobody watches. We all wipe our ass with soccer news, right? In America, we generally wipe our ass with soccer news, even if it's of the male variety. But at the very least, we recognize that men's soccer is a multi-billion-dollar industry globally, right? Women's soccer is not, and nobody really cares about it. Now, insofar as wrestling goes, right, because it's a little bit different, in wrestling, there is a limited amount of time that people can be put on TV. Now, I understand that some people like women's wrestling. I don't understand who these people are, but they surely exist, right? Now, let's take WWE, even TNA, or AEW, I should say. But let's take WWE, right? In WWE, you have certain wrestlers, right, that just will never get TV time, right? NXT is full of these jobbers, right? NXT is full of people that are going to move to the main roster and no one's going to care about them at all. Like Nathan Frazier and Axiom, right? If they ever make it, nobody's going to care at all. They're never going to get any TV time. People think that Carmelo Hayes is going to be this big star. He won't be, motherfuckers. This guy's got Cedric Alexander written all over him. He's not going to be this big star that people think he's going to be. He's going to, at worst, be a jobber immediately. At best, get a slight push and eventually fade into obscurity, right? He's going to have a Cody Rhodes level career, but not like the Cody Rhodes now. Like the first iteration of Cody Rhodes, right? He's just going to be a jobber. Nobody's going to care about this guy. Nobody cares about Trick Williams. They're boring, motherfuckers. They're boring. Carmelo Hayes is boring, all right? Let's be honest. He has the charisma of someone like Cedric Alexander, and therefore he will fall into a Cedric Alexander-like role when the time comes, right? NXT is full of these types of jobbers. Noam Dar, I mean, this guy's been in the company for like 10 years, hasn't drawn a dime. However, motherfucks, I will say this, right? At the end of the day, everybody knows that Carmelo Hayes versus Noam Dar is a much more entertaining match than Bianca Belair and Asuka. It's better than Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. It's better than basically any kind of combination of two female wrestlers. You watch this, and people legitimately say things like, oh, Charlotte and Asuka are two of the best wrestlers of all time, including men. No, they're not. Literally every male that is employed by WWE is a better performer than every female. There is no overlap. The only exception might be like Rhea Ripley because she has like a presence and anything like that. She's obviously the best one in this company, right? But let's be real. Who's better in the ring, motherfucks? Who's better in the ring? Rhea Ripley or Joaquin Wilde? Joaquin Wilde is 100 times better in the ring. If someone were to be objective and they said, what do you want to see? Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte or Joaquin Wilde versus Raul Mendoza? Let's put them against each other this time, right? Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde would have the better match, if you will, right? Technically speaking, the match would have way fewer botches. right? It would have better moves and it would have more athleticism. But because for some reason people decided to give divas a chance, we had to have all these broads pushed down our throats. Now the hater loves women, and the hater believes in equality. However, part of the proposition of equality is also fairness, right? And quite frankly, it's not fair that Trinity Fatu, who has never drawn one dime in her career, right, goes to TNA and becomes the TNA champion, right? And this is treated like a big deal simply because she got TV time that, quite frankly, she never deserved. Let's be real, right? Same thing with literally every female wrestler of all time, especially nowadays. Now, there are some exceptions, right? So, for example, in the Attitude Era, Lita and Trish Stratus were over, right? And a lot of people liked them for different reasons, though, right? They were booked correctly. They had interesting storylines where the fact that they're women is relevant. Becky Lynch, who calls herself the man, is booked like any other wrestler, right? What is the difference between the way Becky Lynch is booked and the way that Cena's booked? It's the same exact thing. So, if I'm going to be forced to watch women take on the role of men in terms of their booking, I don't want to see them at all because you have other men that are never going to get an opportunity that are better, right? Why the hell would I want to watch a Becky Lynch match where every other move is a disastrous botch when I could watch the previously mentioned Cedric Alexander, right? That guy, at the very least, he's boring, but he doesn't botch. Becky Lynch is also boring. You know what I mean? There's nothing special in women's wrestling. And likewise, there's nothing special in women's sports. I watched the penalty shootout. It was like France versus Australia, right? It was atrocious. Most of these girls can't even aim for the goal. It's like the level is so low that who the hell wants to watch this? Now, the market will speak, right? And people, it's on the way out. Nobody gives a shit. You know what I mean? Like, if there was anything else happening this summer, in terms of sports, like, for example, now, the Champions League is going to start, well, not Champions League, but all the leagues that will then lead to the Champions League have already started, right? Nobody cares anymore about the Women's World Cup because Man City played like 2 days ago, right? Things are changing, so nobody gives a flying fuck anymore. But the underlying problem is really the issue here, right? It's like, in our fight to make things equal, we have to tolerate bad things, right? Again, I'm not saying don't have women in WWE. I'm saying that if we're going off any kind of meritocracy, right? Because the underlying argument always was women were held back. No, they weren't. They're just bad. They're just not good wrestlers, so nobody put them forward, right? Like, if anybody is held back, it's cruiserweights, right? Put Cedric Alexander versus Noam Dar, and you're going to get probably a good match every single time, right? Now let's compare that with other BS nonsense women's matches that nobody really wants to watch anyways, right? You have I was playing WWE 2K23, and it's like the number of women that I've never heard of in this company are insane, right? There's someone called Nikita Lyons. And it's like, dude, I just skip these matches completely. I don't give a damn what Nikita Lyons is doing. She probably sucks. You know what I'm saying? If there were enough outliers, you could make an argument, but there aren't, right? There aren't. That's why women like Chyna stand out, Trish Stratus, Lita, obviously the good ones, right? The other ones are just boring. Like Becky Lynch is boring. I know that she drew a lot of dimes because they put a lot of production behind her, but in reality, if they didn't do that, if they didn't push her, she would have drawn no dimes, right? Because as a matter of fact, she drew no dimes for the majority of her career. So, in summation, cuckolds, the truth is exactly what I said it is. And that is that women's sports don't draw because they are not good, right? It's really that simple. And it's not a matter of, oh, they're not as good as men's sports. No, they're just not good. It's not fun to watch, right? You know that there's better quality of things, right, that go beyond women's sports, right? It's the same reason why nobody televises, fourth division English soccer, right? Nobody watches that because the Premier League is a million times better. So when you watch that, you're like, oh, this is complete garbage. You know what I mean? Why would I even spend my time watching this, right? People like to see extremes, right? So we like to see extremely good and extremely bad. Anything else in the middle is boring and shouldn't be televised. Now, good for them, motherfucks. Good for them. But in my opinion, this has helped absolutely zero people. And with that being said, cucks, I think the haters made us points. So you can go and kiss my ass. Or you can go watch the World Cup. Same difference, motherfuckers.